Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to return to Hong Kong, and this is yet another of the beers that I brought back with me from my recent trip to Asia. I did manage to get in a second visit to HK Brewcraft and I was passing through Hong Kong again to come back to Scandinavia. But for this review we've got a collaboration beer between two of the best known and most highly rated breweries in Hong Kong actually, and I'm very curious to see how this turns out because this is yet another new style that I've not tried from Hong Kong yet. So for this review we're going to go to Young Master, and this is a collaboration beer that they did with Heroes Beer Company. So Young Master of course are one of the older craft breweries in Hong Kong, and Heroes Beer Company are definitely one of the ones that have the more interesting business model if you like. But this beer is called the Dom Houblon and it is a Brut IPA coming in at 6% ABV. So it should be a really interesting beer, this one. I'm really looking forward to trying it and I hope that you guys enjoy my take on this one. Incidentally, if you do go to Hong Kong, it's a really crazy and very interesting place to go. There's some great craft beer there, and I have to admit the thing that really blew me away with Hong Kong a little bit was the fact that their laws were only kind of liberalised, I guess, if you like, back in about 2013, 2014, 2015, somewhere around that. And in the last 5 years or so, the craft beer scene there has absolutely exploded, and some of the beers that you'll try there from certain breweries would not look out of place against the European things, the Scandinavian things that I'm normally drinking, and the American beers of course as well. So if you go to Hong Kong, awesome place, and you've got some great beers as well, and these two breweries are definitely a very good place to start. But anyway, as is usual with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the breweries involved here. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery websites, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Young Master and from Heroes Beer Company before. Hopefully I can add some more in the near future, and I do hope that I can continue to review the Hong Kong beers fairly regularly for you. There's all the usual social media. If you want to see more beer reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel of course has a geography based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlists of beers from different countries. There is one there for the Hong Kong beers that I've reviewed for you. That's being added to whenever I get the opportunity, and as always please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about Young Master first off then, since these guys are the home brewery. So Young Master was founded back in 2013 by Rohit Dugar, who is originally from New Delhi over in India, but he moved from New York to Hong Kong in 2011, and he worked for Goldman Sachs before deciding to quit his career in finance and found his own microbrewery. So he was joined at the brewery by German brewer Ulrich Altbauer, who had an extensive experience of brewing from working in mainland China, and he was the master brewer, but sadly he died in 2016, and the current brew team is Edwin and Brian, both of whom have worked for the brewery for a good number of years. So their first brewery that they had was in Ap Lei Chau, and this facility had a 10 hectolitre brew house which acted as their main production until mid 2016, and they opened up a new brewery in Wong Chuk Hang with a 40 hectolitre brew house from GA in Germany, as well as a larger barrel aging area with a fodder for producing sour beers, and they were actually the first brewery anywhere in Asia to have a fodder for making sour beers, which is quite cool. But they brew around 15,000 litres per month at the moment, and they've got a very kind of impressive portfolio of beers if you like. Today they're the largest craft brewer by volume in Hong Kong, and also the most decorated brewery as well, and as of June 2019 when I wrote these notes for you, they produced 104 different types of beer, and they now employ over 20 different people. Like I said, these guys are one of the older breweries in the Hong Kong beer scene, but they're doing some really quality beers. You can get some IPAs from these guys. The last beer, and the only other beer actually that I've reviewed from them so far, was a version of the Hak Mo Shung, which is their Imperial Stout. The particular version that I tried was an Imperial Double Chocolate or something like that it was called, but it was a beautiful beer. There's several versions of that one, and I do hope that I can try a couple more of those the next time I go back to Hong Kong, of course, which hopefully won't be too soon, or won't be too far away I should say, but I do hope that I can try some of their other beer styles as well. They've got a whole host of different things. There's German beers in there, English style IPAs, West Coast IPAs, you name it. Young Master have had a go at it, and you know, by all accounts they seem to do pretty well at it. So this is one of the Hong Kong breweries that you definitely need to check out if you're there. But that's all you really need to know about Young Master for the moment. If you want to learn more, of course, check out the brewery website, and of course you can follow them on Instagram and Facebook and Untappd and all that, and that'll keep you up to date with all the latest goings on. Anyway, on to the second brewery then. So Heroes Beer Company, and these guys, like I said, have a really kind of interesting and quite unusual business model, if you like. So Heroes Beer Company was founded by Chris Wong, who is very well known in the Hong Kong beer scene, along with his childhood friends Jason Lowe and Angus Ip. So the idea behind this brewery is to produce beers in collaboration with mystery beer enthusiasts, although not all of them are still mysterious. Some of them did reveal themselves, but reportedly these guys are questioned extensively about their craft beer passion before they're allowed to come and collaborate with Heroes Beer. But Chris said that the idea behind the company was that he felt the real owners of a brewery are the fans who support it, and so he thought it would be nice to give them the chance to be a sort of superhero of the craft beer world. Chris himself is a former accountant. He moved to Hong Kong from the US and went on to found HK Brewcraft and later Carbon Beers as well, which is another Hong Kong brewery that you definitely need to check out. But he's also the brewmaster for Hitachino Nest, who of course are they're part of the Kyushu brewery in Ibaraki Prefecture over in Japan. Quite a well-known sake brewery, and you've seen me review a number of their Hitachino Nest beers before. But Jason is another co-founder of HK Brewcraft. He has a background in finance, development and project management, while he also serves as the president of the Hong Kong Craft Beer Association. He's the general manager of the company, but also a certified beer tester and cicerone, and likewise Angus Ip is a fellow co-founder of HK Brewcraft, and he has a background in software engineering and finance. As of June 2019, again when I made the notes for this brewery, they've produced 32 different beers which have been produced by the Heroes, a number of whom are home brewers actually around the Hong Kong area. Or they've actually been brewed for some special occasions as well. But yeah, like I say, Heroes Beer Company, they've got some really, really nice beers. You will see me review another one of their beers in a couple of weeks' time probably. They're Seriously IPA, which is really quite nice. So keep an eye out for that video, and of course you can check out the other videos that I've done for them already. And you know, you can also go to the Ale Project as well, the tap bars, which will have many of the beers from both of these breweries on tap. And Chris Wong is also involved there from what I understand as well. So yeah, two very, very well regarded breweries from Hong Kong here, and it's cool to find them collaborating together and doing something that is quite unusual like this. They did have, there was another version of this beer from 2018. This is the 2019 version of the Dom Houblon, so maybe this is one that they're going to get together and do every year, which would be quite cool actually. So maybe next year I can review the 2020 version of this. That would be pretty cool as well. But yeah, that's all you need to know about Heroes. Again, check out the brewery website if you want to know more, and you can follow them on Facebook and Instagram too. But let's get on to the actual tasting of this beer itself then. So like I said, the home brewery out of these two, incidentally, we'll just give the can a little dry because it's sweating a bit in the Scandinavian heat, which is something you don't say very often. But yeah, you can see the artwork on this one. The home brewery for this beer is Young Master. And this beer, from what I understand, it's got 3 different hop varieties in it. Laurel, which is from France, and then it's got Equinaut, and I think it was Mosaic that was in here as well. So Mosaic, of course, will give you these nice juicy tangerine notes. Equinaut is more of a limey hop, and Laurel, from what I remember, it's quite a spicy floral hop, and I think it's kind of a lemony citrus you get from that one, if I'm remembering correctly. So this one should be a really nice, quite dry Brut IPA, if you like. A lot of people that like champagne kind of like these beers. I made the mistake early on of thinking they were using champagne yeasts for these beers, but apparently it's just a very high attenuating yeast that they use in these beers. But yeah, nicely presented this one. You know, your typical kind of artwork. You'll find the same sort of style labels on the Young Master bottles. If we bring this right up to the camera, just check that you can see it. You can see it there. If the light's not working too well with this one because it's black, there you can see the Young Master label on this one, and you can see the Heroes label there too. But yeah, a really, really nice presented beer. So let's get it out and we will get on with the tasting. If I can get my nail under that. But yeah, this is a little 330ml can, incidentally. I'm not sure how widely available this beer is going to be at the time that this review airs, so this might just be a kind of standalone review, but I'm sure if you go to HK Brewcraft, they will definitely point you in the right direction if there is any left. Either that or contact either of the breweries there. But as soon as you open up this beer, you're going to smell some of that lovely Equinaut limey quality coming out of this. But just look at that. On the pour, this beer is a lovely, bright, goldeny straw yellow colour, almost the same as like a German Helles or something like that, the same kind of colour as that actually. You can see there's about a third finger of a frothy white head, although it is just fading away to be a very thin foamy layer now. I can just wind the beer up a little bit and get a little bit more of it out. This beer incidentally is pretty much crystal clear. There is a degree of haze to it, but you know, by no means is this as hazy as you're going to get from some of these New England IPAs. That's one thing actually I don't know if I saw from Young Master was a New England IPA. I know they've got a Scotch Ale, I think actually. I'd love to try Young Master's Scotch Ale because I love trying my native beer style from different places, of course. But yeah, this was you know, this looks like a very, very nice beer. Incidentally, Heroes Beer Company have a lovely a wee heavy Scotch ale as well, which was it called, the Snap 09. That's an awesome, awesome Scotch ale, incidentally. But yeah, lovely looking beer. This one, nothing particularly surprising about it when you consider what style of beer it is. A Brut IPA will always usually be this kind of brighter yellow. Some of them can be a little bit more ambery and orangey, but nothing overly surprising about this particular Brut IPA. So let's take a look at the aroma and see how we get on then. Oh, yeah. That smells really interesting actually. So where to start with this one? It really has a very kind of almost vinous quality to it. It really does have a little bit of that winey note to it. Definitely from straight away you're going to get some nice limey qualities out of this one from the Equinaut. Very dry lime actually, and I think that might be the laurel kind of kicking into it. The laurel, I think, is really providing this sort of dry and almost slightly herbal quality to the beer. The laurel, like I said, if I'm remembering correctly, it's a French hop. You really don't see it used all that often, although oddly enough I did see it available in HK Brewcraft, and I think that's the first time I've seen that hop in a home brew shop. I've seen loads of other different ones that I'd never heard of, like, you know, Girillo and stuff like this, but I'd never actually seen laurel in a shop until I went to Hong Kong, which is unusual. But yeah, you can really smell a little bit of a herbal, kind of earthy tone, which I'm guessing is the laurel, because I know the other two hops quite well. Like I say, Equinaut gives you that lovely limey quality. There's definitely a little bit of a kind of juicy, orangey, tangerine in it. The more you smell this beer actually, the more the orangey qualities start to get that little bit more oily in my mind. So yeah, it's got a lovely oily tangerine quality coming out of it. And there's a little touch of an almost... I always find that Mosaic can just give you a little bit of a blueberry note. I always find that. It's one of the complexities you can get out of it. And to me, there's a teensy little bit of that blueberry juicy note, just kind of at the front of the nose, if you like. And it definitely comes out the more and more you smell of it. So when you first smell this beer, it's almost like it kind of saturates your nose a little bit. You take in the sort of floral notes from the laurel and the limey notes from the Equinaut, and then your nose, they just kind of saturate your nose a bit, and then it's almost like the smell seems to concentrate a bit more on the orangey esters that are coming out of the beer. So that's a really interesting point to make about this beer. Of course, the esters that you get in the beer, I always remember that, the esterifications in organic chemistry. It's when you combine an acid with an alcohol, and that's what gives you, you know, you got your alpha acids and things in here, which give you your nice hoppy bitterness and stuff. Combine them with a bit of alcohol and you'll get your nice fruity esters out of the beer. But yeah, it smells really nice, this one. On the green side of the hops, it's interesting. There's definitely a bit of floral quality there. You know, Equinaut and Mosaic, from what I remember, they're up around the 12-13% alpha acid. So they're going to give you a good little bit of a floral quality, but the laurel really is dominating it. I'm guessing that perhaps the laurel's being used as the bittering hop, as the backbone of the beer, and you can really smell that pushing its way through. So maybe they've been adding the other two as dry hops or very late in the boil, something like that. But you do get the nice juicy fruitiness, but that sort of herbal, earthy kind of quality really pushes its way out of this one. So yeah, the green side of this beer for me is leaning towards a sort of floral, earthy kind of thing, with a little bit of a herbal quality. There's probably a little bit of grassiness in there too. It's an interesting aroma, this one. I'm taking a bit longer to examine it than I would with some of the other beers. But on the malty side of things then, You've got a nice little bit of, there's definitely a nice little, how do you say, a little bit of an almost crackery quality to this beer. You can smell a little bit of a smoother bready note in there, but it really does lean towards the crackery, slightly grainy type quality as well. And there's maybe just a little bit of a kind of biscuity sweetness in there also. But yeah, definitely a really quite interesting beer, that one, in terms of its aroma. So as I always say, take a little bit of time and enjoy the aroma of the beer before you get stuck into it. But we're going to have a taste of this now and just see how we get on. So this one is the Dom Houblon, vintage 2019 from Heroes Beer Company and Young Master in Hong Kong. Two of the best rated breweries over there, and definitely worth checking out if you get the chance. So let's get stuck in. Slàinte, Scoil, Gambay. Yeah. It's interesting that how it goes together. This is definitely a slightly more, in my mind, it has a little bit more of a malty presence to it than some of the other Brut IPAs that I've come across, actually. Yeah, it's definitely not as kind of big and fruity and stuff as I was thinking it was going to be from the aroma. You do get a bit of that juicy fruitiness in the end, but to me, this is quite a dry one. I'm pretty sure it was a fairly new beer when I drank it, actually. Sorry, when I bought it, they did tell me that this was a fairly new one, actually. So it's still in pretty good condition, I have to say. Because I'm drinking this one, just from the date on the bottom, I'm drinking it towards the end of its recommended life, if you like, but it comes across pretty nicely, actually. So with this beer then, the laurel hop again is it really is kind of showing up a little bit it really is showing up quite strongly in the flavour, to be honest with you. So back corners of the palate, you've got a little touch of earthiness there. And that will be contributed by the mosaic. The mosaic always gives you that little bit of earthiness too. But as you come further forward along the sides of the palate, you've got a little bit of a kind of herbal quality in there. And that herbal quality actually is quite prominent, to be honest with you. At the front corners of the palate, you've got a nice little bit of a floral aromaticity to the beer. To me, it's got a little touch of a spicy note, and I think that, if I remember rightly, the Equinox can give you that depending on what you mix it with. But round the front corners of the palate, it's that little bit lighter and more grassy in my mind. But yeah, this is a nice beer, actually. The malt base, incidentally, is quite, it's pretty straight up, to be honest with you. You'll feel a little bit of a kind of bready, pale malty quality. That blankets the middle of your tongue. But then the further you go into the aftertaste, you can feel the malt base just drying out a little bit. And you start to get the, you start to get the more biscuity sweet notes. In the middle of your palate, it definitely is a little bit more kind of biscuity and sweet, and you can feel the more grainy qualities just coming out of the beer the further you go into the aftertaste. Like I said, it really does dry out the further you go into the aftertaste, this beer. Yeah. I do like how this one goes together. I mean, this is a beer that in my mind, it isn't too punchy in any one regard. It's all about how these flavours just kind of mingle together, to be honest with you. So for me, the fruity side of the beer is kind of interesting too. In fact, one other thing you'll get from this beer is it dries out. You get a little bit of an almost woody quality to this one. The further that you go into the aftertaste as well. So behind the front curve of the palate, you've got that little oily bubble where those juicy esters come out of the beer, and for me it's kind of, there's a little bit of an almost lemony quality to this one, but the limes are sort of sitting at the front of the palate, and then if you just go behind that a little bit, the limes are almost on the very tip of your tongue, and there's a little touch of that blueberry note in there, like I was saying, from the mosaic. But if you just go behind that, it's the tangerine orangey qualities that are lying there. They're a bit juicy, but at the same time they're also a little bit oily as well. So I really like how this one goes together. So yeah, I like this. Is definitely quite an interesting beer. It gives me a good impression of the of the Brut IPAs, if you like, from Hong Kong. So I'll be interested to see how this style develops. But it seems to be, you know, I've had some good New England IPAs from Hong Kong. I've had a good Scotch ale. I've had good lager beers and things like that as well. I've had a good Irish red, from what I remember too. So they do seem to be pretty apt at trying all these different beer styles. So the Hong Kong beer scene is pretty thriving, and when you try a different style like this that's only fairly new on the scene, it's definitely quite cool to see that, actually. So in terms of the mouthfeel then with this beer, I'd say this one's fairly light-bodied. I've always found the Brut IPAs to be light-bodied, though the carbonation does give it a little bit of crispness. And in fairness, you do get that from the malt base as well. The mouthfeel overall for me is a little bit wet on this one. It does have a little bit of an oily quality too. On the hoppy side of things, I think in terms of IBUs, you're looking around, you know, 30-ish IBUs. I wouldn't be surprised if it's much more than that. Although that said, like I was saying, the laurel hop does have a good bit of presence in this beer, so I wouldn't be surprised if it's a little bit more. On the malty side of things, like I say, it dries out and becomes a little bit more grainy. There's a little touch of sweetness in there, and there's a little bit of a lighter kind of juicy fruity quality as well. But overall, it's a nice beer. That it's cool to see the Brut IPAs taking off a little bit in Hong Kong. I'm not really sure actually with if this one was intended as a Brut IPA, but to me it does kind of come across like that. It might have just been intended as a regular Brut ale, because the hops, there is a good little bit of presence from the hops, but they do take a little bit of a back seat more in favour of the malt base, so not quite sure actually. But overall, it's a solid beer. It's cool to see Hong Kong doing well at another style, and again, it's cool to see two of the best rated breweries there collaborating together. So yeah, let's just leave it at that for this one. So this one was the Houblon 2019 vintage, brewed at Young Master Brewery in collaboration with Heroes Beer Company, two really good breweries in Hong Kong. And as I said, I would recommend that you try some of these Hong Kong beers. So they've got a little fruit fly going around, which is annoying. But yeah, thank you again for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Do let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from these breweries as well, and you will see more reviews from both of these guys over the next little while. I can definitely guarantee you that. Thank you again for watching. Make sure you check out my social media. Go to HK Brewcraft as well and pick yourself up some Hong Kong beers. But this has been another really good one, and you'll see another 3 or 4 Hong Kong beers being reviewed for you over the next couple of weeks. Until the next time, Slanja just now, and I'll catch you guys later. Slanja, Skill, Gumby.